$77,000 is what I lost owning one supercar. So what's the most money I've ever lost buying a supercar? Let's go for a drive and talk about it. What's going on, team? It's Ricky with Techbit Solutions. Obviously, if you've been on my channel before, you guys have seen many times I have a big focus on buying and selling cars. And when it comes down to buying and selling cars, we normally try to do it for a profit, but of course that doesn't always work out. So I actually wanted to talk about two specific cars, because the car that I've actually lost the most money on, I didn't actually buy with the intention to resell. So I feel like that says a lot. But there is a car that I did buy with the intention to resell that things didn't go according to plan, and I thought that I would talk about it. Not only do I like to talk about my successes, but of course areas of opportunity. So not only can you guys learn from the good, but of course the bad. So even before I say the figure, I want you guys down in the comment section right now to guess what you think the most money I ever lost owning a supercar is. So let's go ahead and first talk about the one that I bought without the intention to resell. This was late 2018 when I decided to buy it. It was a 2018 McLaren 720S. It was probably one of the most featured supercars on my YouTube channel. And because of that, I absolutely love the car. Even to this day, I would have to say that this current car, my Ferrari F8 and that McLaren 720S, are my two favorite supercars I've ever owned. Every car that I bought prior to the 720S was not because I wanted it, but it was solely because it was a good deal. Again, I had a big focus on buying and selling cars. The same thing with the properties that I would invest in. My entire life just consisted of buying and reselling or trying to make money. This was the first time ever that it was kind of just like a gift to myself. All right, just had to get some Dutch Bros real quick. But yeah, going back to it, I ended up buying the car in December of 2018. It had 1,900 miles. It was a 2018 McLaren 720S. It was a beautiful spec. It was everything I could have wanted. With that being said, I ended up selling it August of 2020 for $247,000. It was actually not a bad price to sell, and the reason it wasn't too bad, I mean, you guys can look at the current prices as of right now. This was, I ended up selling it before the chip shortage. With that being said, my McLaren 720S had 12,000 miles on it. So in comparison to any other McLaren that was on the road then, I think the highest mileage one was like 8,000 miles. So there's a big disconnect when it comes down to that. I really enjoy driving my cars. I love putting miles on it. I let my friends, my family, my loved ones drive my cars. I feel like that's the reason that I buy them. It's to enjoy them. I've done it before where I've just let them sit in the garage because my intention is to buy and resell them. But of course with the McLaren, that was definitely not the case. I ended up losing a total of $77,000 because I bought the car for $299,000. I paid $24,000 in sales tax, and then on top of that, I ended up selling it for the $247,000. So in total, if I'm not mistaken, $77,000 is what I lost owning one supercar. Now, that doesn't include the oil change. That doesn't include my insurance. I've broken down my insurance before. People think that I pay an outrageous amount of money for insurance. I don't. I have a multi-car discount. I think I paid like $260 a month, or maybe like $318, something like that, for the McLaren. In my opinion, that's not very much. Oil change, I've only had to service that car once since it was under warranty. And everything was pretty much covered under warranty other than that service change. That service change was about $4,000, like $3,800 or $4,000. Yes, that's pricey, but it comes with the territory. I was not too salty when it came down to selling that car. I knew that when I was buying it. I knew that when I was, taking it on car rallies. Well, a car rally. I took it on one car rally. And what I could say after a year and a half of owning that car, was it worth it? In my opinion, yes, right? I worked for my money. I wanted to make sure that I enjoyed it in the way that made sense to me. And I think that's what I'm here to express to you. Now, that's the most money I've ever lost on a car, period, right? Nearly $80,000 off of the purchase and the sell. The most I've ever lost off of a vehicle with the intention to resell, drum roll please, was my Porsche GT3 RS. I think that's why I'm so salty when anyone ever asks me what's the least favorite supercar you've ever owned. It's that one. First off, I bought it for $180,000. Ended up selling it like almost 2 years later for $165,000. I put 300 miles on it. I never drove it. I didn't care to drive it. It was actually 150 of those miles was actually a friend that drove it because he thought that he had a buyer for it. I regret doing that. And it was mistake after mistake after mistake. I think I got an oil change and that was like $300 or $400. It was nothing crazy, and that was at Porsche. I just didn't, it's a track car. I'm not a track guy. I don't take my cars to the track. I've gone to the track, I think, once or twice. And that's just not my thing. I feel like it's an older person car. It's kind of like an adult go-kart. And it just wasn't my thing. I lost $15,000. You want to know what happened shortly after? I ended up selling it late 2020. And if I'm not mistaken, I think like 1 or 2 months later, the chip shortage began to happen. Now you cannot find one of those vehicles. Let me tell you my exact spec. At a 2016 Porsche GT3 RS with 3,200 miles on it. I bought it with like 28 or 2,900. So there's barely any mileage that was added to that car. I never drove it. I never enjoyed it. And I think that's what I regret most. If I would have lost $15,000 with a car that I enjoyed, with a car that, like, you know, I was able to experience, I mean, great. I wouldn't care about that, but I feel like I wasn't proactive with it because of all the different cars that I had at the time. At the time that I had the Porsche, I had my McLaren 720S, I had a Lamborghini Huracan, I had my Maserati, I had the Porsche GT3 RS, and I would switch other cars in the meantime. It was like, I just had too many cars at that point where, again, that was my mistake. I was being counterproductive with the intention to resell. One of the main reasons for this video is how important it is to learn from the mistakes that you make along the way. There's no question that in any market where you choose to, you know, invest and or buy something to be able to sell it for a profit, there's potential risk there, right? And I think that you learn a lot from the mistakes that you make along the way. If you were to look back, I know I've done this before. I saw this podcast of Joe Rogan, and it was like, it is so important for a person to understand what it means to fail, to lose, because of how it builds you as you recover from that loss and or failure. I can look back to every desire or what I wanted when I was growing up, and I don't know how my life would have turned out if every, you know, let's say the girl of my dreams that I wanted in high school, what if I would have ended up with her and potentially could have had her? My life would be so different now. I don't know if I would want that life. What about every career, right? I wanted to be an engineer. So now, kind of like looking back, how would my life be then? I am so grateful for the life that I live today. And that is not just because of my successes, but of course because of the failures and how I was able to pick myself back up and mold myself to who it is that I am today. And I think that speaks volumes, especially for all of you guys. I really do appreciate you guys' time. I hope that you guys enjoyed this video. I'd love to make more videos like this. Please make sure that you guys smash that like button, and of course, consider subscribing. If you guys want to stay connected, especially when it comes down to trading in the stock market, I do have a free group. It's a free Discord group, and it's going to be the first link in the description. I appreciate you guys' time, and like always, let's make sure that we end the year on a green note. Take it easy, team.